If we have an emergency and need to evacuate, we ask you to proceed through the exit closest to you, go outside, move away from the building, and don't come back into our fire officials have instructed us to do so. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise and pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight we have administrative board work at the beginning of the meeting where we get our business done, and we have actually, we'll have 3 public hearings. The first public hearing has been withdrawn, but I'll just announce it anyway. And then we have 2 zoning amendments we have public hearings on. So at the beginning, approval of minutes, we have approved. There's no more minutes to approve. We have regional impact determinations. I don't think we have any at all there. And we'll move to discussions with town staff. You have anything, John?
Nope, not this evening.
Mr. Torelli is,
Yep,
things are going good so far.
going well. Yep.
Okay. And anything else?
I would just remind members of the board that if you are able to attend next week, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission's Housing Assessment Focus Group.
Is that what was in here?
As part of their regional housing needs, they're looking for input from planning board members, town councilors, et cetera. So that is Tuesday, it being conducted via Zoom. And for members of the board and also for the general public, there is a survey that is, it's been shared on the town social media, but also by the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. They are conducting this survey. They're looking for responses from residents throughout the region. Right now, I believe they have about 35 or 37 responses they've received from Londonderry residents. So it would be nice to see some participation. So we'll share that link again and get that survey out there. And I'd encourage you to share it with any friends or other residents in town. Encourage them to respond.
Good. I've sent several emails out about that, and will be helpful for Southern New Hampshire Planning as they go through the whole housing assessment, which is a statewide thing to do. Okay, anything from the board? Quiet. We'll move right on to new plans and conceptual plans. First item is a public.
We're gonna do the trees?
Yeah, I'm just going to read this into the record first and publicly just show that it has been withdrawn. Then we'll do the trees.
Okay.
Public hearing on a waiver request to section 6.01.c and D of the Londonderry Site Plan Regulations to allow the issuance of a certificate of occupancy prior to the completion of all site improvements. Number 11 Ricker Avenue, tax map 28, lots 22 to 29. This is zoned industrial 2. 11 Ricker Avenue, the owner is the owner and the applicant, and the applicant has withdrawn the request. So that's off the agenda. Hey, Jeff. So we have a full complement of 9 voting members. That gives us a quorum, and we'll still proceed, even though this be votes later on. Next public hearing is pursuant to RSA 231:158 for removal and trimming of trees by the Londonderry Department of Public Works along Adams Road, a state-designated scenic road. And according to statute, if the road is designated a scenic road, that the planning board has to conduct a hearing on any changes. Statute gives no direction to what the planning board may do, so that is up to us. So, John, you have,
I'll let calling begin.
actually, the trees have been marked, so hopefully everyone has been out there to take a look at them.
Yeah, and as Mr. Chair, as you indicated, in accordance with statute RSA 231:158, there is a requirement for on any scenic road prior to any cutting or removal of damage of a tree by a municipality or a utility provider. It does require review and approval by the planning board. As you indicated, the statute does not give any guidance whatsoever in terms of what criteria the planning board is looking at or how this is coming to you. This really is something that is just an opportunity for the public to understand and to know that there's a motivation behind why particular trees are needing to be removed. In this instance, it's because these are hazard trees that pose a danger to the traveling public. There is some sort of imminent threat there. So the trees have been flagged, and I'll let John describe.
What we can do is we're gonna travel from the west to the east, so High Range Road is to our back. This is the first tree. Again, they've all been flagged with orange flagging. The blue and white checkered trees that are marked out there, I can only assume that those are are Eversources, and they haven't approached us yet about cutting those trees or doing any of the trimming. So
And
just going to concentrate on the 11 orange marked flag trees out
I'd
there.
encourage board members, so these are in your folder. There's a file that says Adams Road tree pictures. You're gonna see them a lot better on your screen. That screen is not great, but for the audience out here, hopefully these side screens are helpful.
So this particular tree is a dead pine tree. It's about 10 feet off the edge of pavement. It's actually on town property. So again, it's leaning into the roadway. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to drive it and to see what the condition of those trees are.
Which file is that, John?
I'm sorry?
Which file number?
So if you're in that,
73, 79?
yes, that picture 7379. So that's the first one, and then we'll go
Just
down.
save me from looking through them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Then as we continue heading to the east, next tree is at driveway, by the driveway to,
Driveway 74.
yeah, driveway number 74. And again, as you can see, that particular tree, it's about 3.5 feet off the edge of pavement. It's been clipped a couple of times with the wing of the plow, and failure is imminent. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth trees are, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, yeah, this one, this is the third tree. This tree is about 3 feet, 3.75 feet off the edge of pavement. This is in the, no, I'm sorry, I'm all messed up. Let me slow down.
That's
Yeah.
the four
Number
pack across.
This is number 3. Yeah, this one is about, 3.75 feet off the edge of pavement. In this area, again, the subdivision had dedicated 25 feet off center line of the road, so again, this is in the right-of-way. The next, yeah, that one, thank you, Colleen. Again, that one's about 4 feet 9 inches off the edge of pavement, again, within the dedicated area. The next tree is 6.25 feet off the edge of pavement, again, within the dedicated area. And the last one is about 9 feet off edge of pavement, and again, and that tree is actually dead. As you can see, if you were to look out there, go out there and take a look at the crown of the trees, they're not in good shape. Next tree is the tree yeah, thank you, Colleen. This is the one that's in Moose Hill, or on Moose Hill property. And again, that's been clipped a number of times. Where the cursor is, it's all rotted in that area. And again, it's about 2.5 feet off edge of pavement. Next two trees are between number 25 and 27 Adams Road. The first one is about 1 foot 9 inches off the edge of pavement. It's a big pine tree. The next one is about 3.5 feet off the edge of pavement. That one, again, has got some plow damage to it because it's so close to the edge of pavement, and some dead tops to it. Next tree on the north side of Adams, just almost across the street, or along the frontage of number 16 Adams Road. It's an oak tree, again, it's got some significant plow damage, not much life left to it. It's about 2.5 feet off edge of pavement. And these trees, again, would be within the dedication of the 25 feet off the center line. And the last tree is, again, a dead pine, about 4 feet 3 inches off the edge of pavement. Again, within the 25 feet of dedication to the town. So again, the last time there's approximately 11 trees that we're looking to remove. The last time we had done a major, I call it a big tree removal, was about 20 years ago, at which time we did about 40 trees. One thing that, as we're doing this during the course of performing this work, if on Adams Road, if there are limbs that we see that are decayed or in the process of dying, we're gonna trim those as well. So that's where it says tree removal and trimming. So that's the idea. Any questions?
Okay, what we'll do, we'll go through the board. I'll start at the end, and then we'll go to the public for any input there. So, Ann?
I have some comments about two of the groupings you were discussing. Beside the driveway to, let's see. I'll start with Fiddler's Ridge.
Yeah.
They look pretty healthy to me. They didn't seem like they were that close to the road compared to other ones. And I think I would suggest you keep the middle two. The other two, one of them on the left, there in the picture, the one that's far left, I guess. It definitely looks dead when you look at it, but the middle two, to me, they look like they're healthy. Then there's another issue. There's nothing behind them. It's just some scrub, maybe 20 feet back. So it's going to create, I think, if we strip all those trees from that curb, it's going to, kind of decimate the view there as far as the scenic nature of the road. The same thing with the Mac property. Over the years, we've been taking trees down because they've had issues. But when are we going to put something back there? That scenic road is becoming less scenic because of the beauty of the trees, especially in the fall. Those massive ones that have lined Mac's property for years are coming down, and they're part of that view, especially in the fall. They're magnificent in the fall. I see what you're saying, John, but we need to do something about our responsibility, keep it a scenic road. It's, the Appleway Scenic Road, especially since it's a state certification to be a designated scenic road. We should do our part in keeping it scenic because there are viewpoints, specific viewpoints that really make that road. Max apples and the huge trees. I know you want to save them. I know there's reasons to take them down, but we need to think twice too. Also about when we take them down, what's going to be left as far as scenic. The trees are essential to that road, and
Well,
I'm just one who
About
values
30
the beauty
years
of
ago,
them.
when the Heritage Commission brought forth to town meeting, and this was the old town meeting days, selectmen open town meeting and everything, the town voted for a scenic highway, and that's when there were roads, right in the vicinity of 43, Adams Road. It was all maples, and it was beautiful in
Yeah.
the fall, and Hank Peterson would tap them for maple
Magnificent.
syrup. Most of them have died now.
Right,
There's-
or been cut down.
Well, they were cut down because they were, in essence,
Right, but we
dead.
should do something about replacing them. We keep, every year, we take down more of the big ones, and, it just becomes another road.
Yeah, we try to keep it scenic. It's not as scenic as it was when the town voted for it, but it has that designation, and as time goes on, it takes its toll on the trees, and of course, a few of them cars have hit and damaged the trees, and then they eventually, probably within 10 years, they die, so.
Maybe we have some responsibility to keeping it scenic then. Maybe plant something a little farther back from the road to replace it. And years from now, it'll,
We used to get trees for free
reward.
for Arbor Day from the Arborist Association. But we'll have to look into what we can do for replacement trees.
I know what you're saying, John, but it just like stabs me in the heart when I see another big one come down, especially in that area,
Well,
So, and as far as the Fiddler's Ridge ones, do you really think that those two in the middle really need to come down?
Did you look up?
Yeah, those are the best ones out of the four, the two middle ones, I thought.
Again, the failure is imminent, in my opinion, and it's,
Okay,
Yeah,
just one man.
Thank you. I understand what Ann's saying, but I'd like to just start with this picture here. 7385. It's a small tree that you're looking, can you zoom in a little bit? And then there's a bunch of little shrubs next to it that, and a bunch of trees after it that really look dead. And this is somebody's property. This is where I struggle with what Ann's saying, planting trees for somebody else. And they need maintenance when you do plant a sapling. But do you see what I'm saying, John? There's those ones there, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all dead. Eventually, these are just gonna fall in the road. And it's gonna cause either power outage or kill somebody in a car. So I just wanted to, say for that one, and then I'm being a little picky here. I do agree with you on the next one, the 7384, number 16. When you zoom in on it, again, further down the road, I'm seeing another dead one here. There's one little thin pole in front of like a cluster of 3. They really look like they're dead. When I went down there, I noticed there was a lot of, and I bet you it's the salt, the plows, that are damaging them. Years ago, these trees survived because we didn't put salts and stuff on the roads, and now all of that salt is taking its toll on the tree as it ages. Yep. So, I mean, I know you're flagging certain trees, and we don't want to strip this thing bare, but we also don't want to leave hazard there for people.
So that's our struggle, Deb. So again, we're trying to balance it too.
Right, and I understand what Ann's saying, plant another tree, but that's not our property.
But I didn't say on every property. I pointed out 2 areas, and especially that Motel Orchard property. It's
to
on
me,
a corner, it's a nice part
but it's
of the
not
road.
the town's property, it's the landowner's responsibility if they want to plant those trees there.
But aren't they on the,
Town right away, but
Right.
are you gonna go there and water it? If they don't water it, when it's a sapling, it's not gonna grow.
I understand that, Deb, but just the principle of a scenic road where
I understand
Taking the
everything, but
scenic out of
you
scenic
can't,
road.
you're gonna spend a couple of $100 on a tree to replace a tree, and if nobody's taking
there's
care of
two-
it,
two-
it's
two-
gonna die.
Two viewpoints, I think arguing further is not gonna accomplish anything.
No, it isn't. I understand what you're doing, and I'd see Ann's side about keeping them, but if they're dead,
Well, it's just the other, I didn't complain about anything, I mean, I think John's right about the rest of them, it's just those two groupings.
I think then the solution is, we could put a nice letter to the property owners there, letting them know we're cutting these trees, and because it is a scenic road, it would be nice if they would put another tree there. I mean, really, that's all you can kind of do. And to Art's point, yeah, you can get trees for free from the Arbor Society, but they're,
But then you gotta keep them growing until.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're tiny, and you have to nurture them. That's all I really had to say. I understand why you're doing what you're doing.
If the town sent me a letter that
Not
said
required.
that-
No, just
but if the town
suggested.
sent me a letter that said they'd like me to plant a tree with my own money, I'd send them a letter back and say, take it out of the 12 grand I pay you every year.
And my answer would be, we just cut down a tree for you that could have crashed on your car or on your property.
That's on the town right away.
Yeah, but it's the same thing,
Okay.
tit for tat. I mean,
Well, you'll have
I'll
your
wait, I'll wait
chance
till
to
you get
Jay.
down this side, Art.
well, I mean, they came and cut down a dead tree in front of my house. I was gonna do it, but because it was so close to the road, it was cracking. You could hear it cracking. They came and did it. I mean, I did plant another tree, but further back, but I mean, I was just happy I didn't have to take it down. I was worried about pulling it towards my driveway as opposed to it going towards
Yeah,
the street.
trees can be dangerous.
Yeah, they can.
Okay, Jeff,
John, just one quick question. What's the overall timeline and project plan to kind of remove all 11 of these?
It'd probably be a couple of days, and probably within a month, I think.
And you would obviously close, we'd have to shut down the road and,
Not necessarily. We always try to keep a one-way one lane of traffic going.
yeah, that's And where does the wood go after we take it down?
Typically, it goes back to the yard. Because, Jeff, some of those trees, when people say, "Oh, leave it for us," more often than not, we end up going back to pick it up. Because you don't realize that you only have a 12-inch bar, and those trees are 24 inches in diameter. So a lot of times I will convince you, you know what, whatever you do for work, go to work.
Yeah, and I actually, having to, taking a tree down and thinking that I would have all these grand plans.
You wish I would have talked to you.
Absolutely. And that was like 2 years ago, and it's still in my yard. So
I believe you.
really, really kind of a,
Lesson learned?
lesson learned, thinking that you're able to split wood really easily.
There's nothing like a hydraulic
But
wood
anyways,
splitter.
all right, so from an overall project, about 2 to 3 days,
Yep.
a week maybe, depending on weather.
Correct.
One way, obviously, you would have, police directing traffic.
Those are usually our own guys
Okay,
with the sign package, and we're pretty efficient.
sounds good. Thanks, John.
All set. Lynn?
So I drove the road, John, and I agree with your assessment on all the trees. A couple of questions, though. Do you remove the stumps as well, or do the stumps just get left there to rot?
Some of them we will go back out and grind them, Lynn. Kind of depends on how close we can get to the ground. I think
Yeah.
a lot of these will probably end up going back and grinding, particularly some of the bigger ones that are within a couple of feet. Those distances that I said, it was averages about 5 feet off edge of pavement.
Yep.
So some of them are real close.
Oh, the one in front of Max just kind of caught my eye when I drove the road and how bad of condition that is, but how close to the road it is, too.
Oh, yeah.
And I was hoping you would be taking the stumps out and not just leaving them, because it's still going to be a hazard in navigation for the snowplows and things like that.
Correct. Yeah.
Still stop a car real quick.
Yep, absolutely. But I would like to just make one comment on to what Ann was talking about, too. I think it'd be great if we could buy 11 trees and plant them somewhere as a town. Maybe not necessarily replace them in
Full-grown
the
ones,
same
but-
place, but 11 trees somewhere, just to show that we're doing our due diligence with that.
I was only asking for one.
I think we should go for 11, yeah.
Okay.
The Heritage Commission found out the cost of a tree was not cheap, yes.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks. Al?
Yeah, I trust John as far as the trees go. No problem there. As far as replacing them with 11 other trees, I think that would be a great idea. I can see a couple problems. One is getting homeowners' permission, or if you're going to put one and replace one that's on an undeveloped lot, is there going to be any guarantee when a developer develops it that that thing's going to survive there anyway? So, hey, do some research, see if it's feasible in all places. If not, and just a few, then go for it. That's all I have.
But Al, just follow up on that, the 11 trees, I'm thinking you could even just go on the town common, somewhere on some town land.
Oh, you're not thinking of replacing them right where they're
Not where
removed?
they're at, no. I think they have some issues being that close to the road. I would not ever entertain putting a new tree 2 feet off the road.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Chance of survival is probably not too great. Johnny?
Well, I understand there's a balance, but I agree with your assessment. If they're gonna, it's a shame, you have like a scenic road, and more trees you take down, the less scenic it becomes, but, I'm sure you're not doing it out of, sport. I think you're probably doing it out of, safety and what have you, to go down there, so, who might disagree with that? If you do replant trees,
God bless.
I would recommend that you probably plant them in the fall, because that's probably their best time likelihood of survival, because they'll get the whole year to settle in. My thoughts on it.
Okay, thanks. Jason?
I have no comments, thank you.
Okay. Bruce?
I think the professional's assessment of what is or is not a healthy tree is adequate for my knowledge, and I think that the scenery evolves over time, and that a dead tree is not as scenic to look at as properly groomed roadway sides. So if that's what DPW believes are sick and unhealthy trees, then we should remove them in the presence of safety. That's my only comments.
Thanks. Roger?
I drove down and I think that everything that I saw was necessary to be removed. But I would make a comment that if you're interested in replacing some trees, maybe we should talk to the conservation. They've done various things and they have a lot of money. And I don't, if you're taking a tree down and you're putting one sort of like in replacement of it close by, I can't see where anybody would have a problem. And planting it in the fall would probably make a difference. But they gotta go. That's what we should do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jake.
John, I would agree that all the trees you have marked out are certainly, it's in the best interest to have them taken down from a safety standpoint. I'll kind of go back to when Eversource came in a year or two ago for a few trees that they had asked to take down. We asked them to grind some stumps, and those stumps are still there. So I would like to make sure that the stumps are removed or ground down while we're doing this. And I think putting a reasonable timeline on it, within a month after them being taken down, not 2 years, and they're still there, I would appreciate. You mentioned it, that Eversource obviously has some trees on the road that I would assume are going to be coming in to discuss here in the future. I was kind of hoping they were here tonight because I was going to give them a hard time about the stumps they still haven't ground. So I would definitely like to see the stumps ground. In that meeting, I also mentioned, I would be in favor of replanting trees somewhere else. So much like Lynn said, I certainly wouldn't, I think that's a great idea. Even if it's not a tree or, we take some inspiration from the town forest and some of the things that Kent's planted around there, and, whether it's rhododendrons or, a native shrub, something like that. But let's put 11 things back, I think is reasonable, to say the least. And that will also go for when Eversource comes. They've got a lot of trees marked too. So that's kind of my 2 cents, but I would definitely like to see the stumps ground.
Yeah, I think again, Jake, like you're saying, because of the proximity of a lot of those trees, within so close to the.
Yeah,
it may not be within 30 days, just because again, what will
Yeah,
end up.
I'm just asking for a timeline.
Yeah.
Whether it's a
Understood,
month or
just-
6 months is fine, but let's
I'm gonna tell
set a
this-
timeline
Tell
on
you
it.
why, though, because again, we'll cut a number of trees, and then when we go to rent the stump grinder, we'll go from Adams Road.
Yeah,
we'll go-
oh yeah,
so
absolutely. I
everybody
get it.
understands.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
It's just-
Well, when Eversource comes in, we can ask them, their old stumps they can take care of.
Good luck.
I know. They're usually the ones that most frequently coming in because of the,
My only other
trimming.
comment, again, about replacement of the trees, again, we don't have that in our budget,
Yeah,
to be honest.
I know, I
okay?
know,
Just so we're all on the same page.
I know.
yeah, we're looking at even for trees for the town common because there are 2 trees down, and we think we can just barely afford 1.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yes, and
And I'd suggest that one would be a sugar maple, because it'd be iconic to Londonderry,
Oh,
when you
yes.
think of it. They're just gorgeous.
that's why it was originally the scenic road because of
Yeah.
all those sugar maples that
Yeah,
were
exactly.
along that stretch there with where 43 is. It was just beautiful. But
Yeah, they really catch your eye, too. They were just gorgeous. And it's a shame. I'm not saying put back pine trees or whatever. The sugar maples are just spectacular.
yeah, usually the deciduous trees you kind of want. The conifers are not so good. Plus they fall over easily. There is one for the public. Have any questions, comments, concerns in regards to the tree removal on Adams Road? I don't see any. We will bring it back to the planning board. The planning board will make a decision on this I'll just wait for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to allow the Public Works Department to remove the designated trees on Adams Road.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Al, second. I heard Jeff was loudest, but he's closest to me, so. Okay, does the board have any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. And the designated trees will be removed when Public Works is,
We'll drop off the wood at Jeff's.
yeah, sir, I have it at the Highway Department for public to come and grab what they want or something.
No, don't say that.
Yeah, that's usually more problems than it's worth.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next, we have our two zoning amendment public hearings. We have public hearing on a proposed amendment to the Londonderry zoning ordinance, section 4.2.1.4, livestock, as it relates to changing the acreage necessary and amount of poultry allowed in the agricultural residential 1 district. The full text of the amendment is available at the Planning and Economic Development Department, the Town Clerk's Office, and the Leach Library. So we have spent, as a board, a fair amount of time on this, going back and forth, and our staff, Colleen and Laura, have done quite a bit of research on it so that it's all has some scientific basis to it. So, Colleen, I'll let you.
Learned a lot about chickens. So as the board knows, we've been working on this for the benefit of folks in the public. What the intent of this proposed amendment would be to allow keeping of poultry on lots smaller than 2 acres in size. There is proposed kind of staggering in here based on the size of the lot, the number of birds permitted, and this is based on information and input we got from the New Hampshire New Hampshire Cooperative Extension. So this does not change any of the requirements or what property owners larger than 2 acres are permitted to do. So anyone on larger than 2 acres, you're not impacting or changing anything of what you're currently regulated. But those smaller lots will now have the opportunity to be able to have some poultry and ducks, geese in some instances. There are restrictions on roosters. There are restrictions on how poultry are to be kept and contained, to be contained on the property so that they're not causing a nuisance for other abutters. But with that, if anyone has any questions, we did receive a couple of emails that I can read once you get into public comment. I'll read them into the record.
Yes, we'll do it the first part of the public input part. I'll go through the board. Actually, I'll start with the other end. Jake, you're
Wow,
expert
you're
on
throwing a
chickens.
curveball at me. I think this
Give
is,
Ian a little relief.
yeah, I think this is pretty good. It's come a long way from where it first started. I appreciate that we all kind of agreed on a little bit more than chickens. I think we're pretty reasonable on what we've come up with here. And I'm curious to see, obviously, there's some people in the public tonight, so I'll be curious to see what they have to say.
Yeah, and Roger's going to speak on turkeys, I know, so.
No, I'm happy. This is a good start, and, you have to start somewhere. And I agree with everything that's written.
Okay. Bruce,
I'm good with it. Good to go.
Jake, I mean,
All these J's.
I'll go again if you want.
apologize.
No, I think we've come up with a good plan, so.
Ready to move on.
Oh, there's enough in the chickens. Al,
I'll echo everybody else's sentiments.
Thumbs up for me, so.
Jeff,
Same.
Deb,
I'm happy that this is in place. Seems like it took forever to get it through. I think we spent more time in this than we did on groundwater. But yeah, so you're saying that if you have an 0.5 and an acre size lot, you can't have turkeys?
No, so if you.
Do you know where I'm saying, number 5B?
Yes, so between a half acre and an acre, you can have 6 poultry, other than turkeys. You can have basically any combination of 6 hens, geese, broilers, however you, but no turkeys on that half acre to 1 acre. And some of that was based on the guidance of cooperative extension, just on areas
But
needed.
above it, you say 1 acre to 2 acres.
1 to 2 acres.
So if you
can
have an acre,
Yeah,
if you have an
I was wondering
acre,
about the acre.
that's where it's, and again, it's still at 0.99 acres, you don't get a turkey. At 1.1 acre, you get 6 turkeys.
I'm just saying I struggle with that
get
comment.
it.
I mean,
it's.
I think that's a little,
But that means at 1, you get nothing. Because it says a between, 0.5 and 1 acre. That's
Yeah.
between them. It's not
Yeah,
including.
between 0.5 and 1.
You say up,
yeah, you have to say
you
the
say less than 1.
less
or
than an
and a
acre,
more
but
than
not more
one.
than
Yeah.
this,
Sure.
or not
Yep.
less than this.
Yep.
So that's the only,
I think this
Okay.
is where
Tweak.
where law has a problem of really to put it, because really it's, a range is good, but then you get a range in law, it's, bites litigation, so.
I know a lot of people are biting at the bit at this. They can't wait to get their chickens. I can't tell you how many calls, look, see, I can't tell you how many calls
Chickens
I've
are on the
got.
way.
So I can, and
So if that was fixed that way, I would be happy with
and the
it.
board, if the board, after
If
hearing
they-
public input, decides to make a motion and ask for that to be clarified, then that's a non-substantive change that we can
Okay.
go ahead with and put it forward to the town council. That wouldn't require.
The board
Thank you,
so far
Colleen.
comfortable with that?
Clarification of the actual
Of-
sizes.
Yeah.
So it
Up
should-
to, and then
It should
1
read
acre and more.
0.5 to 0.99 acres, and then 1 acre and above.
Correct.
It will phrase it as up to 1 acre and then 1 acre and more. So up to 1 acre or,
Or greater than
There has,
1
there
acre?
has to be a small gradient between 1,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it should be 0.99 and below.
I agree.
Yeah.
0.999 and above.
So you're saying if you have 0.999 acres, you can't have turkeys?
no, that's right. You can't have turkeys. 1 acre or more, you can't. 1 acre to 2 acre, you can.
But all right, whatever. I'm not gonna get into it, but I mean, we'll still see ZBA people coming. Because that's like a,
It's something we could discuss for a while, that's for sure.
I know, but I liked the way we said it the other way. I think it was up to a half acre and under cannot, because once you get under half an acre, now you're really getting close and you're really tight, and yeah, then there shouldn't be any turkeys. But if you have a 3/4 of a lot, or you still should be able to have a couple of turkeys. And you have them anyway; they're rolling through your rods anyway. So what does it matter? I had like about 10 of them there this morning.
Dab.
That's my opinion, Ian. I don't see. I mean, you have tons of animals in your backyard at night, all day, going through. So
We'll,
Will I have an acre?
we'll get a gradient and we'll come up with that factor and
Something
make sure
to,
that the town attorney is comfortable.
Yeah, between the town
whichever-
attorney and code
that the language
enforcement.
is gonna be defensible and
Thank
is
you.
clearly understood, so we can address
I mean,
that.
I don't want to hold it up. I really don't. But I just think it needs to be a little.
Yep, that's a clarifier.
So I think probably what you're talking about is half an acre to less than 1 acre,
Right,
and 1 acre and more,
Exactly.
yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up question. Colleen, has the town attorney reviewed this yet?
It's been part of what is out there for the city's solicitor. He's been otherwise rather busy. This is something that normally we'll have him take a look before it's going through a final review.
Sounds good.
So there's nothing about this that raises concerns for a legal challenge.
No, I just didn't know
Because of
if
this-
if he was already all
Yeah.
set with the this language
If
was.
there, we'll make sure that he's reviewing it before the council signs off, and it's normally something that, if it was a more complicated zoning issue, then he would have had eyes earlier on, but this is not something that's,
Sounds good.
Chickens are a complicated issue.
Yeah, this is a zoning amendment, and we make the recommendation to the town council. The town council will actually adopt it, so. Ann, I know Ann's been waiting.
I have a few things to add here. I hopefully, it clearly expresses that they have to be at all times in a covered enclosure, correct? No free roaming,
correct.
just so it will avoid the turkeys in the trees for the neighbors.
They
That's
need to
what
be, they
happens.
need to be fully enclosed. That's what items 1 and 2 restrict. The B1 and B2 require enclosures, roofed enclosures.
I know, but I hope we make that public, because they'd have to read the whole ordinance, and as opposed to they hear, oh, you can have you could have turkeys or chickens between this and that, but they have to know
and-
that there's restrictions.
If and when this gets adopted by the town council, I imagine that through, town website, social media, and other information, we will come up with some fact sheets so people understand what the requirements are of having poultry.
And I'm thoroughly against the
Yeah, because I
geese.
think it's the
Yeah,
qualifications.
we're still geese or no.
There are no geese allowed in.
Oh, okay. Why did I see geese?
Yeah,
Or
no
turkeys.
roosters,
I
geese, or
mean
guinea
roosters,
fowl. is
excuse
where we
me.
came. No
Geese and
roosters, geese,
roosters.
or guinea fowl. So if you have more than 2 acres, you can still do that. We're not changing anything for them, but on these smaller lots, no goose, no geese,
It
roosters.
says geese, poultry, winged and feathers animals, including but not limited to chickens, hens, roosters, ducks,
Yep,
geese.
and that's for a definition, but under B4, we are
okay.
establishing that
That's what
though a
number
rooster does meet the definition of poultry, you are not permitted to have a rooster under this
Okay.
language.
I'm all
It was
set then.
defined and then excluded.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone from the public have any questions, comments, and concerns? Lady right down front here, come to the microphone and your name and address. Yes, right down front here. I need your name and address, please.
And my name is Kim Streitmatter, and I live at 3 Pine Street. And I think this has been far too long waiting for this ability to have chickens on an acre or more. I like that that's also a little bit of smaller lot size that they're allowing some chickens to. I would disagree with what Ann was saying with not allowing free roaming. I think one of the benefits of having chickens is the tick control and pest control. And if you keep them crated up in one little spot, then you've lost that benefit, that there's no benefit to their, I know when I had chickens at one point, I had no ticks on my dogs because they would roam in my yard. They would do it all, and I didn't let them out free roaming. They'd come out during the day when I'm home and watching them, and then they would go back in at night. So that's the only thing that I would have a little bit of a conflict with, but I would not want to hold it up for it.
We've had comments from people that, and the code enforcement has got a lot of complaints with chickens getting into other people's yards, and some people like them and some people don't.
Absolutely,
we've
and
gotta
if
get a
that
balance
became,
here.
yeah, if that became an issue, then I think that at that point, you've broken a different ordinance. There's already something dealing with that if they're a pester to a neighbor. There's already something written in to deal with an issue if they leave your property. That keeping them confined, that they can't roam at all, seems a little overkill, because now you've got 2 different ways. I think if it's already covered, it's covered. Like if my chickens were to get out and get into the neighbor's property, now, is that the case with 2 or more acres? Because a chicken doesn't know property lines, whether they have 1 acre, 2 acres, or 7.
They're gonna go, It's-
Exactly,
it's-
so if it's okay for a person with 2 acres of land to let them free roam, then I don't see why over an acre would be any different. If you've got that wording in there, that if they are a nuisance, that they can be dealt with.
We're gonna, we spent quite a bit of time at this.
Oh, I know.
And it's really, you're hearing from both sides, and it's kind of a balance, but we'll probably, at least make probably a recommendation to the town council, because the town council has to adopt this amendment.
Yes.
So, it's to see how it goes, and I'm
Yep.
sure it speaks to it as it goes along. the code enforcement officers on the front line, that individual has usually the most comments and what is workable.
Absolutely. And so I am in favor of the changes.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's a start.
Make sure you go to the town council meeting when it's up.
Yeah, I'll explain the procedure for the town council when we kind of wrap things up. Anyone else? Everyone's all set? Okay, so what the board will do is make a recommendation to the town council on this. The town council adopts it. Town council will have, 2 readings on it. First reading, they introduce it publicly. The second reading, they have a public hearing also, and then they can adopt it. Or they can say no, or they can refer it back to the, planning board to make changes. They can recommend changes. So that's the way it goes.
Mr. Chair, if I could just into the record the
Oh,
email
yes.
correspondence. So I've got
Please.
3 emails that we received today. So just for the record, the first is from Lindsay Flanagan. I don't have her property address, but she is a resident here. Saying
What's the name?
the name is Lindsay Flanagan.
Yeah, I don't have a
Okay.
address either.
So
Just an
saying
email.
that tonight, Wednesday, April 13th, a planning board meeting zoning for allowance of chickens on 1 acre of land instead of 2 acres will be discussed. I'm writing in support of this amendment. However, I think the amendment should specify that this does not allow for roosters or any other farm animals. I also feel that the amendment should include language that the chickens must be contained to the owner's property at all times, cared for properly so the owners do not have to deal with any unwanted farm animal smells. Please feel free to share with the other board members. I've encouraged other residents who feel the same way but can't attend tonight's meeting to send emails as well. So that's from Lindsay Flanagan. This next is from Patricia Anastasia, 50 Holstein Avenue in Londonderry. I'm unable to attend the hearing for this amendment to zoning ordinance 4.2.1.4 regarding the acreage necessary and amount of poultry in the AR1 district. I would like to express my support for this amendment for consideration by the board. And finally, I'm going to butcher this last name, Tim Rochelle. Apologies, Tim. Good afternoon, Colleen. Hope I'm emailing the right person. Wanted to express my support for the amendment to change the land requirement from 2 acres to 1 acre. This amendment can help our town build a more local to protein, allowing for a healthier and happier community overall. Benefits of more chickens are plentiful beyond the obvious egg production. As you probably know, there's a predicted fertilizer shortage coming due from the impact of the conflict in Ukraine, and chicken droppings can provide great fertilizer for our own gardens. They're a natural form of pest control. They're a great teaching opportunity for our youth, and they can reduce our waste impact. I appreciate the time and hope the town can move in a more sustainable, healthy, and local approach to our food needs. That's all we have for public comment.
That's what I had. So, any further discussion with the board? If not, I'll take a motion.
My first motion is going to be this, Mr. Chairman. I would like a motion, Make a motion to amend the language in section capital B, 5, small b, to read lots between 0.5 and less than 1 acre in size are permitted to have. That's my motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Al, second by Jake. Any discussion by the board?
But the next one says between 1 and 2. And it should say 1 acre or,
Larger.
It's fine
between
with,
doesn't,
between 1 and 2 is fine.
between doesn't include 1. Does it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it does include it.
Yeah, I
Should
would
say
include it.
lots greater than 1 and less than 2 in size are permitted to have.
No, because 1 is included with the turkeys.
Lots of 1 acre, lots 1 acre in size or greater up to 2 acres.
Something like that, because you have to include the 1 in there.
Oh,
I think we should
I'll
vote on
agree.
this motion first, if we want to continue on that. Let's vote on this motion.
I can always withdraw the motion if we want to add additional language.
That should do that.
So I'm going to withdraw. Did someone second?
Second.
They need to withdraw.
Second.
Okay, can you read the changed language?
Okay, so 5A would be lots 1 acre or greater in size, 1 acre up to 2 acres.
Just greater. Because it's great. What if I got 10 acres? Is that
Greater than
excluded?
Yeah, greater than 1 is
Just
fine.
greater than an acre?
Just greater than 1 acre.
Greater than 1 is fine.
One
It
and
can't be
greater.
greater than 1, it has to be 1
If you've got 4 acres, you can have 30 turkeys or 30 chickens if you want. We're trying to focus, this ordinance is based on stuff under 2 acres. So let's focus from half an acre to 1 and 1 to 2.
Half an acre, said half an acre to less than 1. Just, say that again, what you said.
Half acre to less than 1 was Al came up with, and I think that's the appropriate language for B.
Right, and
Yes.
then 1
And then
to
1 to 2.
We'll
It
go
says
with-
1 to 2.
That's
Not
what's-
between, 1 to 2 acres.
Oh. So
would
lots
just say
from
1
1 to 2 acres?
Yes.
What, somebody who said, I think John said, take out the between.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it would say lots 1 to 2 acres in size are permitted to have.
I think that's
The same
Okay,
thing.
Can you read everything
So-
back, Colleen, please?
A will be lots 1 to 2 acres in size, and B will be lots 1.5 acre to less than 1 acre.
Yes, everybody happy with that?
Yeah, should we say greater or should we specifically state 2?
Half an acre,
It should be specifically 2 because the
I'm
ordinance.
sorry, Jake, I
I
couldn't
know,
hear you.
it should be specifically 2 because the ordinance is based off of
Off of the 2?
lots less than 2 acres.
Okay.
acres or
You know?
more.
All right,
Yeah.
never mind, thank you.
Okay, so I am going to remake that motion with those changes.
Second.
Take seconds.
Motion by Al, second by Jake. Has everyone got, understand the wording and everything?
Yep.
We're all in, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative, and motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the town council the amendments to the zoning regulations that we have proposed tonight.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Jake. Any further discussion by the board?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
To take into account some of the public's comment, if we define an enclosure under the sheltered coop in section 2, and then in section 1 under B, all poultry shall be properly enclosed at all times. And then we define enclosed as being kept within the 25 feet of the property line. That would give people the ability to have their somewhat free-range poultry, but not affect a property owner.
I think that's kind of making more of a substantial change. We'd have to go to another hearing. Or we could go with what we have right now and then at some point in the future, discuss that.
Or the council could add that when they review
Yeah,
it.
the council could do that also.
Okay.
But, I mean, because it'd been warned as what we got there, so any changes that change it substantially, we have to hold another public hearing. So we're not fooling anyone.
And to that point, there was some public testimony in the previous workshop sessions that were encouraging that there be, enclosures, so
Well, I'm not
it's-
saying don't be
yeah.
enclosures. Still
Yeah.
have an enclosure, but have some free-range area as well. Kind of a hybrid poultry.
I think our enclosures, if I'm not mistaken,
Enclosure should
over
handle.
the top also. So if you want to free range a half acre under wire, I think you could. But that's
I suppose you could.
not, that, when they're talking about a closure, they're talking, 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 or something.
I think we should leave it the way it is for now, except for the size.
Okay, we'll put it to a vote.
Aye.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. Motion carries. I call it the poultry ordinance. That will go to the town council. And at some point in the future, it'll be on their agenda. First reading and second reading.
Yes. I don't have the dates yet of the town council, but those will
Kirby's got
be.
a,
Monday.
I'm sure they'll be very excited.
They changed
I'm
it.
not sure if we'll be able to do the first reading.
No, but I'm just saying, so they changed them.
Yep.
Yeah.
It'll be a packed house.
okay. Our next public hearing is on a proposed amendment to the Londonderry zoning ordinance, adding a new section entitled 4.6.8 Groundwater Protection District. The full text of the amendment is available at the Planning and Economic Development Department, the Town Clerk's Office, and the Leach Library. And this also, we have spent a considerable amount of time and conversation with individual from the Department of Environmental Services. So, Colleen, I will let you get into the details here.
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, as you recall, this is based on the state's model ordinance for groundwater protection. There had been some discussion back and forth on whether the board wanted to include all of the aquifers designated in town or start with just wellhead protection areas. So this current map is showing the wellhead protection areas. For the board's information, and I am going to read this because it's in your packet, but we did just receive an email today from DES because there were some questions about the wellhead protection areas and the designated public water supply wells. So Pierce Rigrod from DES today, hi Colleen, a citizen from Londonderry contacted me, is planning to attend the town meeting tonight, concerned about land use restrictions related to a wellhead protection area for Holton Public Water Supply. The WHPA shown below, and this was for a water supply area up here off 28. The WHPA shown is for a non-transient, non-community source. That type of public water supply well is not required to have a DES-defined wellhead protection area. Only community water system sources have WHPAs. So this is an error in our data, DES's data. They've requested it to be removed from the DES GIS wellhead protection area layer. So he's recommending that Londonderry remove that wellhead protection area from the zoning map. So we have made that change. There was previously a wellhead area up here. In realizing that there was some error in DES's data, which is, it is what it is. We did spend some time this afternoon going through and verifying the remaining wellheads that were identified, and we did remove 2 other wellheads that, though they are public water supply wells, they were listed in the DES data as being non-transient, non-community sources. So in particular, these are, 2 of them happen to be for daycare centers where it's a water supply that's providing a water source for more than 25 people. So it's a public water source, but it's not a community water supply well that requires a wellhead protection area. So that's something that I believe was a quirk in how some of the GIS information that DES had in their files was translated into their GIS layer. It's something that I think this board had brought up. A question during our discussions on this is, as wellhead protection areas change, or as if we had aquifers, if those were changing, what is the administration and maintenance of this? And that is something that we recognize is going to, it's on a annual basis or more regularly, just review if there are new wellhead protection areas that are added or that are taken away. So it is an administrative function that'll be part of the obligation of the GIS manager to keep track of these things and make sure that this gets updated. But I wanted to bring that to your attention because we do have concerned residents who noted that and appreciate that DES was able to catch and identify their data flaw, and so we've
How
now
often
updated
does
that.
the DES check or update their, maps?
I do not know how
yeah.
often they update their maps.
Okay, I'll go through the board and then the public. So I'll have Ann start off this time.
Glad to see this coming. I really am. I got a question about the map. What's the difference between ponds and wetlands as far as how it's indicated?
If you
The same.
if you zoom in, the wetland is a hatch mark. You can see it better. The wetland is basically a blue hatch mark. Up the pond is a blue, a solid blue.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
there is a distinction, but you're not going to see it on that screen.
Yeah.
You can see it in the
No,
the
I'm
better
just
version
looking
of
at
maps.
This map.
Yeah,
Just-
yeah.
Okay.
It's
No,
not
that's
meant
fine.
to be seen at 11 by 17. It's really a full-size map.
The one on our screens is much better than what's up there. I think that gets washed out by the light.
You can see the hatch marks, and there's a solid right next to it.
I'm all set, Art.
All set in? Okay, Deb?
I'm just happy to see this get put in, and I agree with Colleen. We need to keep checking this on a definitely more scheduled basis and constantly reflect on changes, not just changes on whether something's turned into a wetland that may have turned into a pond or something else. We have to really keep track of this moving forward because some of these need to be labeled as potential and/or viable water sources in order for us to move forward. So having this being accurate is going to be really important. That's my big thing right now. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, no, just echoing others, happy to see this move forward, and obviously, I think an annual update or whatever that frequency turns out to be,
6 months.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a very good relationship with the DES, especially with the PFAS problem, so there'll be a lot of updating. I mean, they're catching up, they're working hard at things, so.
I've asked, and have asked Pierce what, because there are other communities in the state that for 15, 20 years have had this same ordinance in place and are relying on the wellhead protection areas. So I'm asked and I'm looking for some guidance from them on how often do other communities look and update these maps and what's their typical experience. So moving forward, we'll hopefully get some additional guidance from them.
Yeah, Amy and Erin are a wealth of knowledge. They really are. The two of them are kind of scary together.
Lynn?
So Colleen, there's two areas on the map, one at the northeast corner and one at the southwest corner that go into other towns.
Yes.
You were gonna check to see if they have any plans like this in place to develop an ordinance like this, or if they have something in place already?
So this upper corner is in the well is actually in Derry. The wellhead protection area, though, would go over Derry and Auburn in addition to Londonderry. Auburn does not have, so no matter what, they all have a wellhead protection area that has a definition and is protected by DES, but Auburn does not have a local ordinance on the wellhead protection area. I was not able to confirm with Derry if they have an ordinance or not. The Hudson, again, wellhead protection area is defined and is protected, but the local ordinance is unclear. So they're defaulting to the state regulation more than the local.
Okay, thank you.
Is that area in Derry
I'm all set.
Johnny?
I'm all set, thank you.
Yes. Jason?
I'm
That
good to
is
see this
mobile home
going.
park.
I'm happy to see this going, so.
Bruce?
I'm excited to be taking some steps to protect water so that hopefully my children will have some sustainable water when, in the future. So I think it's a good first step.
Roger?
Same with me, good first step.
Jake?
Think it's good?
All in agreement. Any member of the public have any questions, comments, or concerns in regards to this zoning amendment addition?
Where's Ray?
Ray, good question.
He's in
been missing
Virginia.
in action for,
He's driving
month.
down to Virginia. He's taking a month vacation.
oh, would you get lost
Went to
down there?
Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then back. He's visiting a lot of railroads.
Victory lap right here.
Yeah, he's visiting a lot of railroad places.
Oh,
He's big into
disappointed.
engines, so.
Rail nut.
He did stop by and talk to me about it last week.
Is he happy?
He'll come back with all these pictures of locomotives and everything.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Well, he's moderately satisfied.
Yes, it's a good first step.
Any,
He says that,
any questions?
We have 90,000.
Everyone seems to be pretty content. I'll bring it back to the board for a decision. This will go to the town council also. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the town council proposed amendment to the Londonderry zoning ordinance by adding a new section entitled 4.6.8 Groundwater Protection District.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Al, second by Bruce.
Real quick there today, Bruce. Real quick.
Bruce was a little quicker, so.
He got outdone by an old man.
The holster.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions? The chair votes affirmative, and it's on its way. We have a start, which is better than nothing. So we will work on further expansion of it, and especially for our individual wells. Okay, we have any other business come before the board?
I'd like an update, if that's possible, Mr. Chair. Where do we stand with finding someone to help us with the sign ordinances?
So that RFP came back and was well beyond the budget of anything that the town is going to afford to do at this time for signed ordinance. So we're going to have to regroup and see how to move forward with that, doing that internally and just making it. It's challenging because we are staffed in order to respond to development review and to handle the day-to-day and to be able to do these smaller, zoning ordinance amendments as they come up. We've been lucky that through this winter, we've really slowed down on the development review side of things. We're able to spend more time on fun stuff like chickens and groundwater. So signage is a
Never gonna live
priority
that
and needs
down.
to be
That's gonna be
done.
my
It's a
legacy.
matter of fitting it into what staff have time to do, so.
Just because, again, it's something we see a lot at
Yeah.
the ZBA, and I know that it's better to have updated rules so that, when you're fighting something,
Yeah.
you have the thing to say, we looked at this
The-
recently, and this is the way we feel about it.
The estimate, and I think that the one proposal we received was somewhere in the neighborhood of $65,000 or $70,000, which was just,
exceeded-
there's no way that is even within the realm of what's reasonable for the scope of work that we were anticipating. So we'll be back to the drawing board and move
There's
forward
still
with that.
a fair amount of flux with litigation in regards to signs countrywide. Some of it relates to the First Amendment of our Constitution. Some of it gets into detail. It requires probably a fair amount of study and work by, at least a good consultant who's quite knowledgeable in that area, and our attorney.
Well, could we, I know if we ever have a slow period, right? Like a night where it's not a heavy agenda, could we as a council kind of just review them? To say that at least they were reviewed by the board, excuse me, I said council, reviewed by the board just recently and,
I think there's probably
They
some
agree with them.
recent court cases you could pass along to the board for the board to, because I think there's going to be an understanding of what has gone, through case law before we really delve into it.
Nick has identified a few areas that he has some concerns just on how the interpretation
Yeah.
could be applied, and so I'll take his areas of concern and see
it
if we
out.
can figure out how to solve those. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking we could at least do something so that they can't say that they've not been looked at in a while. That's all.
Is that
I think staff is very, very well aware, because Colleen and I have been talking about it. And
Is that something where the town council could put together like what the correct word is, a work group or some communities?
Like a task force, you're saying?
Yeah, as communities' expertise to help
Or a
make
subcommittee of the planning
recommendation
board?
to the planning board on what
It's
should or
something
should
I'd
not
rather
be.
have the planning board work directly on, because we're the
Yeah.
ones that have to be knowledgeable about it.
And with all due respect
It's not to
to
delegate things
committees,
off, but
it tends to,
Could we have like just a workshop?
That's what I was trying to
Yeah,
say.
Could we
during
have a
the-
planning board workshop that would get some of the public input and feedback on it? And I don't think we need to spend
This is a good-
$65,000 to change a sign ordinance.
there's a
a
good,
lot
good,
of
Their recommendations are things that are, as Art was saying,
Bless
as
you.
Chairman was saying, are illegal or
Yeah.
what have you. I mean,
Bless you.
you're spending a lot of time and effort for things that may not be done properly.
yeah,
That's
'cause
true.
doing a sign ordinance is not like it was, I'd say, 3-4 years ago, because of litigation that has been, it's become part of case law now, so. I think first thing we probably would do, or should, is meet with our attorney.
Yeah, see, I was thinking more of, because we're getting a lot of those, like neon and light signs,
LEDs.
LED lights, different, those types of things, not
Dennis had a
necessarily
major problem
having a
with
sign.
Moving signs
Yeah.
beyond.
To-
Yeah, those
forth.
sort of
To
things need to
Jake's
be.
point, I think if what we do is an upcoming agenda, put it on as a workshop item, and have a public information meeting where we're seeking public input.
Yeah.
If folks will come out and give this board and give staff input, because the board can tell us, we want more signs, smaller signs, bigger signs, we like moving signs, we don't. But I think getting some input from the board so we can kind of have a discussion, we can, without having a consultant be leading this. But it's gonna take a little bit longer for us to go through the process.
Right,
But we can, I think having that as a discussion, getting some initial input, and that way, in addition to the strictly, legal aspects of the interpretation and enforcement items that Nick has concerns with, we can get some input on the aesthetic and the size. If we're, currently limiting things to too small of a size, if we want it larger, if we want light, illuminated.
that sort
and
of stuff.
We can have it as a
Vegas
discussion.
or,
Yeah.
So I think at least in putting that out there, that the community is aware that we're going to have this as a discussion item. So if there are folks who are interested in signage and want to offer input, then they can do so at a planning board meeting.
I did have a conversation with Colleen in that regards with light pollution, which is something we haven't discussed here.
That's
And
a
we
whole nother-
really need to look at
it is
that whole
it's a
thing, because
problem.
we're
I know
losing
the
stars.
state of Pennsylvania has done some scientific studies on glaring light and its effect on highway safety.
Mhm.
And there's a distraction factor. You try to look for a sign, but then, you run into something or someone else or hit a person. So there's many facets to
Well,
that.
to me, these are things that we haven't talked about, at least I don't remember even in a while, is noise pollution, light pollution, and signs.
Yeah. There's a lot of, especially you get into the Pennsylvania state government, you find all the studies that they have been doing, which is, I was just kind of like overwhelmed. But,
Maybe we can ask the airport to turn their lights off at night.
I was just thinking, if it's slow on certain weeks and we don't have something to do, these things are good for discussions to have workshops on.
But I hear from people, and I think at least what I find, the majority of the population doesn't want flashing, glaring, huge signs. They don't want us to look like Route 28 in Salem. They don't want us to look like South Willow Street in Manchester. Not even, Crystal Ave in Derry. So even though 102 does look much busier than it used to as far as all the
28's starting to
signs and
look like
the
that, too.
lighting and everything.
I think
But,
a workshop is a fair,
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
a good
just
starting
to
point.
get
I
input,
think
you
for
know?
us to hear what,
exactly,
what's on
just
people's
to hear.
minds. Another thing is, what we had touched on a little bit is the dog kennels and places like that, but the list could go on and on, what we need to do, but I know that staff is still fairly busy with, subdivision site plans that
Well,
come
that's why I
in.
said, for more interim things, like when we know that there's not a lot of stuff going on,
Yep.
and it's something that could actually benefit the time,
Absolutely.
just to be updated a bit and looked at. I mean, maybe, when we talk about buildings putting in trees, there are studies done now that tell you that these trees are more of a sound buffer than these trees, and so maybe we should say to them, use these ones instead of those, and
What type
Ju- I
of
mean-
trees grow, because, you put a tree in, on let's say, a new site plan, and 5 years later, the tree's grown, so you don't have sight distance anymore.
well, and some of them start off small like a fence, and then the fence ends up being 8 feet tall, and underneath you can see everything. So, it's little things, but it's just cleaning house sort of stuff, and
Yep.
I think whenever you can clean the house, it's a good thing.
Anything else?
Kind of the same thing on, signs are about the way things look, I guess. Be curious if we could, the guy that came last week had a building, kind of the general consensus of the board was nobody really liked the way it looked. I know we have like the lookbook and stuff like that. Is there
Yeah.
any way to put together more of a,
Put it into
hey, your building
words.
needs to look like this? Because I feel like it just wastes a lot of time,
So-
How often does somebody come to the Heritage Commission that we don't, their ultimate feedback is you need to change the way it looks? Can we create more of a,
So the site
This is
plan
what it should look
regulations
like.
do have architectural standards and architectural guidelines.
Yeah.
The standards are, you shall not have mirrored glass,
Yeah.
but it's not, there are some communities that have much more restrictive or not restrictive, but much,
Detailed.
more detailed.
That's what I'm trying to get
But
at, so
it's-
like
it's a
people don't go to the
balance
Heritage Commission
because-
and get told, you gotta leave and come back. If they had a little bit more to begin with, maybe they would make it look different from.
Yeah,
It's
that-
a
that's how we came up
challenge,
with
and in
the
my-
lookbook, which does a certain amount.
Yeah.
But even before that, when developers would come in, what we would say is, take a look around town, take a look where you want to build, fit in there.
Yeah.
That's usually the best way.
Yeah.
And there's some nice buildings that we've got, and it's go take a look at, like 28, tell them, take a look at the bus station, see what that is like.
I use the Verani building and the bus station all the time.
The
They look great.
challenge is that if we write in if we attempt to create regulations that state that you shall use natural materials, you shall use clapboard, you shall use, then that makes projects, and it makes projects very expensive, and will get a lot of pushback from, commercial,
I think what I'm getting at though is like these projects, some of these projects that end up doing it anyway, they have to go to the Heritage Commission and get told, change it. And they come here and we say, change it. How can we get rid of some of that, I guess?
I
You have to
think,
remember,
I think
Heritage
you're
makes a
saying more the look
recommendation.
and feel as opposed
Yeah.
to an ordinance. Just as a happy suggestion. This
Yeah.
is the way we want it to look and
That's what I'm
feel.
saying,
It's like
you know?
form-based zoning is, this is the way we
That's what
want it to
currently
look,
have. That's what we have now.
but we don't want it to be this way.
Jake, and like Arthur was just about to say, the Heritage Commission can make recommendations. The
Recommendations.
ultimate decision rests with this board.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just, so I guess it would just be kind of, thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Just making it a little more specific to stuff,
Exactly.
Make it
can-
more,
I can
instead of
circulate
a
to the
natural stone
board.
veneer, it has to be some type of brick veneer. So we can get a little, like I look at 102 and I every single day I look at that Concentra, which was like one of the first things that got approved the first night on my first board meeting. And if it came upon us today, I would have fought tooth and nail about not having that stone veneer they have on it. Because, well, it looks good, it just doesn't match anything. It would be nice if it was brick instead of stone, or, I don't know.
Well,
I
like,
can
Look at
certainly-
Londonderry.
The other thing is that it would save money. It would save them because they wouldn't have to keep going back and getting.
This is what I'm
drawings
getting
done
at.
and
Can
designs
we
done,
give
and
them
it would-
something that says, hey, if you're gonna have this, it needs to have brick on it instead of this, so it's not
So
like,
we have that. The Londonderry lookbook is that. That's
Yeah.
a guideline of this is what.
Guideline.
But it's a guideline. So if you want it to be, this is what it needs to be, and it takes the questions out. Everyone knows these are the standards. We can do that by codifying that in the site plan regulations. I'll show
Yeah.
you some examples from other communities that have stricter standards. You will get pushback from the development community, and that's
I think that's fine.
fine.
We need to
just
start
be
to make
aware
stuff
that,
match.
But here's
that's the balance.
But
That's
here's the
trade-off.
glitch. So somebody like Londonderry Ford,
Yep.
they don't have to come here when they're redoing the facade because it doesn't change the footprint, right?
Footprint
No,
stays the same, they still have the same,
And
Let's
I
do
mean,
it.
because that totally
So
doesn't
the
look like,
change, they-
I mean, I'm,
Yeah.
They did come
They-
before.
No, they came
so
in
with-
front of us.
They
So-
came,
Because it-
Londonderry Ford came
they're
before, and
putting addition on, and they were building another new building, so they had to come for a site plan. on
and there
all
are
of that.
circumstances where if someone is changing the facade, it to a degree that it rises to the, degree of.
But
a
some
site
of them
plan
don't.
approval. So, for example, at one point, Mr. Steer had wanted to add neon tube lighting, which
Right.
would have required, which is not permitted under the site plan regulations. It would have required a waiver. So that came to the board and did not get approved.
see, this
So
is
the
what I
Heritage-
don't understand.
The Heritage Commission approved
Changeable
that.
lights,
It was
too.
not a majority, I mean, it was a majority vote, so there were those that
The neon
opposed.
lights.
Once it came here, planning
Yeah.
board said
Here's
no.
what I don't understand. So the neon lights, those little have a blue lights, we won't have, but we'll put the big white lights that are all around the smoke shop, They're all around the,
White lights
the
all over
poor
the
boys,
Christmas
and then the
lights.
vape
Christmas
store,
lights,
and
yeah.
someplace else.
The Christmas lights.
No, they're the big
all year
outdoor
round.
lights.
really?
They're
Yeah.
big white lights, and so that's okay, but that isn't.
Have to pass that
So
along to
this is
Nick.
what I'm saying about cleaning house. And then you have businesses that do things without asking permission, and other ones that do and get penalized for asking. So,
And here's the other thing too. I sat on the planning board as an ex officio, and we're still recovering, and I still hear it. Those boards back then were about as anti-business as you could get. They didn't want to approve
Yeah,
anything business-oriented,
yeah.
and getting back to the balance without making it so strict that we have to go to court and fight a developer that says, you're gonna try and cost me $100 million more. I just don't want to get in that position.
And I wouldn't say by any means I'm trying to be anti-business. I'm just trying to make stuff look the same.
So,
Well,
is it,
there's a point that you can go. I mean, back, I think it was in '98, the New Hampshire Supreme Court was it Rite Aid v. Henniker ruled that basically a community can set its standards. A community has a right to have
Absolutely.
it look like what it
Absolutely.
wants.
What
And
was
then I
it?
think there was a case that followed up, I think a year later in Salem, that reiterated it also. That went to the
Isn't Henniker
New
over in
Hampshire
Salem?
Supreme Court. But the Land Use Court had a recent case where I think a town denied multifamily housing because it didn't fit the character of the town. Land Use Courts said, you have to allow it because where's your definition of, what is, what's the town supposed to look like?
Yeah.
We have the lookbook. This is how we want things to look, at least give them an idea. I mean, putting things into words is usually difficult, and the more detail you get,
Yeah.
it invites litigation. It keeps lawyers busy. That's what it does, It drives us crazy. Everyone in
So,
the public crazy.
I guess from a not planning or heritage commission standpoint, do you guys have any input when somebody comes and brings us a building like that the other week? Do you ever say to them like, that's probably not gonna fly at the Heritage Commission, they're not gonna like the way it looks?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
So-
I certainly,
I'm ridiculous.
yeah. Well,
So-
you are ridiculous.
That's right, yeah.
So
At least we guide them.
that's the first thing that we do as staff with any project, not just about issues relating to architecture or other. If somebody is thinking about doing a project, we sit down and as John says, we throw rocks at the plan. It's, what are the red flags and what are the issues and what do we see as being, so we'll say, hey, look, that roof is not gonna fly, or, you're not meeting this requirement on stormwater, whatever it may be. We do that and give them a lot of guidance. So by the time something gets to heritage or planning, we've already tried to push them gently in the right direction, and sometimes they listen to staff and sometimes they do not. So, but I think that I can show you examples from other communities that maybe have, more black and white and more detailed standards and guidelines versus if folks have, read and reviewed our guidelines and standards there's not a lot there. So when we're reviewing plans, I can say this doesn't meet a standard, but honestly, like the mirrored glass is like the only thing that really jumps out as a definite no. So I can give you some examples
Just
of
think
other
a little bit
communities.
more of a
Just
standard on how something
Keep in
should
mind
look,
that it's
you know?
it's just that balance of,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm not, just, again, it's like you stand in the Whippersnappers parking lot, and you see 15 different types of look of building. Hindsight's 20/20. It would be nice if they all looked a lot more
Well,
you
that
know,
was
like they
built
fit
over
together.
a
yeah,
period-
you can
period of
do that
time.
by keeping brick accents throughout
Consistency.
each building. The buildings themselves can be shaped different heights, different sizes, but if they all had a little bit of brick or something like that in them, it would just look better.
I was gonna say whippersnappers. That
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
been around for how long?
Yeah.
He was revisiting his youth.
The old days.
I just
No,
want
that
to,
was
I just want to chime
Marcus
in too,
Place.
though, is that we can do all this, and I know it's for good cause, and I know that everybody's well-intentioned, but everybody has different opinions on things. So when you get to a point where everything needs to look absolutely the same, where are you getting to a point where everybody's opinions are different.
Yeah.
I know that there was something I get slapped on the hand in because somebody said, the building you built has a blue roof. And I strongly disagreed with that. And then I'm driving here at the planning board meeting, and I go, the school has a blue metal roof.
Yeah.
So apparently somebody liked it. So, so I'm just saying that you
Yeah.
get to a point where you take away the creativity too.
And
So
I'm
it
not
needs-
looking to do
it's
that. I'm
almost
just looking to
like
find a
if you
little bit of
wanted-
consistency in
if you,
everything.
I like,
you know?
I like what we already
they
did with
complement each
with
other.
the look guideline. Like, this is what we got. But additionally, is there ever a thought behind giving somebody an incentive to do something in the right fashion versus always?
Probably, I don't think we got much. I know the Heritage really works with, when people come in. Sometimes it's a very big disagreement to begin with, and we kind of, after, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 iterations to come to, a meeting. Not everyone's totally happy, but at least there's somewhat meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
Look at Taco Bell. That was a 4th iteration before the Heritage Commission. It was a reluctant yes, and so from the developer. So it's kind of like meeting halfway with
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you have.
I
a-
see what
a
you're
looks-
saying.
A
Yeah.
look guideline
Yep.
and in incenting these people to develop in the right fashion versus, I don't know. You get to a point where everything's going to be brick buildings and blue roofs,
Sounds like you would hate it.
It doesn't. It doesn't fit everybody's.
Perception.
How often is the lookbook updated or reviewed? Who reviews it?
Hasn't been done in a while, and that
2006.
was, Tom Bianchi was the one who came up with that idea, and we went around town, took pictures. We got pictures from other towns and kind of what we wanted, what we thought was the essence of Londonderry.
How often should something like that be updated?
More regularly than it has been, because,
another
because,
project to
and
add
that's
to
the
the list.
same with the signage, is that materials change over time, so building materials and building facades that were utilized, 20 years ago are very different than what's available and is utilized now, so,
It's still around from 100 years ago and today, brick. Brick and
How
granite.
often, who,
Because it's natural.
what board has the purview
Made
of
out of-
that? Or
So the lookbook is just a guidance document, and that was prepared by the Heritage Commission. So the Heritage Commission can look at that and update that. The Heritage Commission has no budget, so, and so that's a challenge. But the Heritage Commission prepared that. That's something that, can be identified as, adding it to the list of, items
Yeah.
and things to be reviewed and worked on.
Yeah, might be something to just add to the list of
Yeah.
Oh,
review
we
down the
got
road.
another workshop.
And I think what Jake was trying to say is you're looking for buildings, not necessarily to be cookie cutter.
No, I
but
don't
to
want 'em-
complement each other.
Exactly,
So
I
not
don't-
to have a Victorian next to a modern or,
I
a
just want 'em
colonial
to
and a some
you know,
things that
taste with each
complement.
other.
Yeah, because a good architect knows how to complement. You look at some of the form-based zoning buildings and everything.
Yeah. It's an
And even
eclectic
what, like
mix,
what
but-
Woodmont is doing, because Woodmont is probably the perfect example of form-based zoning. And there's a variety, even in that big, block of
Apartment building.
apartments. There's variety in the design. You get a good architect, they know how to come up with something, and they'll take like diverse ideas and put it together.
Yeah. Just looking to,
right.
like you said, I don't want them all to look the same. I just,
Nobody does.
make them
Complement
just
each other.
complement each other. Yeah.
And that
I
can
know I
be
saw
in
a lot of
color
pictures
and
of what
style.
Woodmont was gonna look like, and it didn't have any large open fields like it still does, so.
I think we might have them for a
Time to go
while.
yet?
I saw a lot of beautiful pictures of
we
a
get in
city
trouble.
within a city, and
Before we get in
basically a
trouble.
very large field with an apartment building in the middle.
It's gonna be a while to get
Don't
there.
forget the brewery, Bruce.
It won't be in my lifetime, I know.
Was it a 30-year build-out? It was 14
They
years
were-
ago?
They started with 20, and my comment was it'd probably be more of a 40 or
Motion
50-year
to adjourn.
build-out.
Yeah.
From,
But I mean, there's a perfect example, right? It's like, it's, we want it to be so similar that it,
Yeah, there's gotta be,
Doesn't look
because now
similar.
some of the designs I looked at were from like Charlotte, North Carolina, some of the places down there. There's a real good diversity of architectural types that seems to just
Yeah.
blend together.
and I don't know, I
You
don't know.
look at it and say, oh, this looks nice, it's.
I'd be curious to see what Salem's recommendations, and, because you look at the Tuscan Village, and I mean, That is a lot of.
What's the biggest thing that stands out at the Tuscan Village? The brick Tuscan market.
They built it.
Come on, I could go all day.
I think Jake is part Italian.
But think about it. Think about it. Let's,
It's like the
You,
no, it's
Do
just,
you have,
let's
like,
look around
shared
New
some sort
England,
of
look at
Yeah, he's
Portsmouth.
gotta have
look at Boston.
investments.
there's an ownership share.
He's a
Brick
brick,
and
he's a
granite.
brick wholesaler.
Oh, okay, so,
What's common?
to be clear, I sell the exact opposite. I sell concrete pavers. I don't sell brick.
I did want to make
Deb made a motion.
one little comment
Yeah, no,
here.
doesn't
For-
matter.
I was
Okay,
on the
Roger, then I
Conservation
think,
or on the
Deb had
Heritage Commission for a very short period, but the meetings I attended, they're very good at what they're looking for, and they've got a good idea. I spent quite a bit of time on the Conservation Commission, which seems to have a big effect on how things look, even though it's more looking for the, making sure everything's where it is. So I haven't been on any other boards except this one or commissions, but there's 5 or 6 people that look at all the blueprints that come in for any development, 5 or 6 different groups. And they all share one thing in common. They live here and they want to keep Londonderry looking as we envision it in the movies. And that's true, and there's nothing wrong with that. They want trees on that street, on Adams Street. And they want things, so-
11 of them.
Yeah, 11. Yeah, we're gonna have
Brick.
sugar maples.
A lot of brick.
But I'm gonna go to the Conservation Commission, and ask them if they'll get the town some money to put trees in. Because when I was on there, the 3 years, people were always coming in and asking for money. So, and this is a town with people who care about it. I don't know how you get it to look, because my idea of a perfect building is an old army barracks. And
The old days at the airport.
I lived in them for many, many years. But anyways, so that's the problem you have. We have a lot of people who have very opinionated on how things should look, and they always aren't of the same opinion.
Oh, yeah, we hear a lot from people on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because even the McDonald's on 102, we heard about that. That was a third iteration to get that. And then I remember Home Depot, that was a 4 iteration one, and they kept going back. That was before the Heritage Commission was making recommendations, it was the planning board. And we said, no, 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 no. And then, actually it was John Farrell, who was on the planning board then, he did a lot of traveling with work, and he had pictures of different Home Depots across the country, and would say, why can't you make it look like that? And then Home Depot, Mr. Home Depot there would be, okay, well, they went back to Atlanta, Georgia headquarters. A month later, they come back, and it's a little more like what we want.
Yeah.
And there's some other changes, they go back again, back to Atlanta. And then 2 months later, they come back, oh yeah, that looks good now. So it's showing, you have a willingness to work with them. You
Yeah,
aren't
oh, yeah.
telling them exactly what to do, but kind of like what you like,
Correct.
and then what they like, and you work at, try to at least meet somewhere in the middle.
I think that change in variability helps over time as boards evolve and as the town evolves to, keep some of the old, but introduce
Exactly.
a little bit of the new.
Exactly.
I mean, I personally enjoy the fact that the developers come and give us something to start with, and then we make recommendations for them to change, like, the other night with
Yeah.
put some brick on it.
Yeah. I just feel bad when they've come through 2 boards and then
Okay,
they
we'll
leave.
have to
and it's
save,
like, oh, I gotta
this
spend
is some good
more.
conversation, we'll have to save it for another time.
Come on, Art.
Thank you.
It's only 8:30. Come on.
We're making a motion to
He's getting
adjourn.
young. I don't see any other business, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I made it.
Second.
Deb made the motion, second by Al. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
May everyone have a happy